Let us bring out the artist in you. If you'd like to learn how to paint or improve your painting, the SAA is here to inform, encourage, and inspire you every step of the way. When you become an SAA member, you get so many benefits, including the free bi-monthly newsletter Paint, packed with inspiring step-by-step projects, fascinating articles, and detailed information to get your creative juices flowing. Discounts on over 13,000 art products featured on the SAA website and in the Home Shop catalogue, with free order line and free delivery in the UK mainland. A devoted SAA team on hand to answer your questions and give you the confidence and motivation you need to start painting and develop at a pace that suits you. Plus, a free welcome pack filled with gifts and practical help to get you started, as well as the opportunity to make friends with like-minded people.
Best thing about being a member is the inspiration from the magazines, to be able to purchase things at a very reasonable price.
Yeah, you get the reduction on all the materials, the advice you get.
I could shop from home.
It's a community.
It seemed like a very friendly sort of organisation.
If somebody's thinking of joining, don't spend too long thinking. Just join. They'll love it.
Hello. Okay, good morning. Welcome to the SAA head office here at Newark. I'm Claire Warner and we're going to be spending the whole day together. I just wanted to tell you that every time I do a workshop after 25 years of teaching watercolour, I still get a little tickle of excitement that I'm going to be allowed to spend the whole day painting. And I think I've always been a great believer that we're all born with a creative side to us. You know, we have different characteristics, different sides to us, but it is the creative side that I think that we need to nurture, because in this busy life, I think, it's the thing that gets squashed out. We tend to get busy, don't we? And, creativity goes out the window. But I'm absolutely sure that it's the feel-good factor, part of our makeup, and very therapeutic. I actually started teaching 25 years ago because I'd actually had ME, and I started to paint again. It was the one thing I could concentrate on. And gradually, as people asked me to start showing them how I did it, I didn't call it teaching, I never wanted to be a teacher, it came out that people said, oh, I found it really helpful for some reason or another. So, it's the thing that we need to develop, isn't it, our creative side. And sometimes it comes out with cooking or gardening or something, but I just feel at home when I've got a paintbrush in my hand. So you've given yourself permission today to have some me time just for you. So I hope you have a lovely day. And welcome to the people who are at home and watching as well. I hope you take the time to have some me time as well. I just wanted to say to you, there isn't one way of painting a picture. It's really important you understand that. So if I make a suggestion about something or I use a technique, by all means, if you want to do it your way, I'm not going to come at the end and say that's wrong. There's nothing wrong with what you do. And I think the good thing about you seeing different tutors is that you can pick up the things that you really like and enjoy. I was talking to one lady this morning, pick up the things that work for you. So I hope you get some new ideas and try some new techniques today and go home with some ideas that perhaps you hadn't used before, hadn't mastered before. The plan for the day is that we will have 2 hours this morning with the picture that I've got. It'll be the drawing up, the preparation, the first wash. I will expand on that. And then this afternoon we'll be finishing off and assessing our picture as to what it needs. So we have a plan. I'm a great believer in being prepared. I think if you're prepared and you're focused, you're less likely to get lost in the picture that you're painting. If I was going to describe the style and technique of this particular picture, I would probably call it loose with detail. It's really the way that I like to paint. I like plenty of loose washes, loose things going on where I don't complete things, and then I like some detail as well, something that I can focus on, if you like, and get my teeth into. So that's what it's all about, loose with detail. Some people find it hard to do detail. Some people say to me, Claire, if only I could loosen up. So if I had, if you like, a goal for you today, it would be that if you're struggling with either of those things, that hopefully you will master them. But also, we'll have reference material, but I'm hoping that you will be able to use some of your imagination. I usually use that word and I see people beginning to quake in their boots and people saying, Claire, I've got no imagination. Well, like I was saying with creativity, we all do actually have an imagination, but we need to practice it, don't we? We need to work it. Some of us find it easier than others. I probably have too vivid an imagination sometimes, but it's something I've worked on all my life. I used to write stories when I was young for my teddies, and I think that's probably where it started. And I was also very fortunate enough to have my mother and my grandmother who also painted. And my mother is also just given up painting at 91, bless her. But isn't that lovely? So I've been encouraged all my life. And we all need to be encouraged, don't we? So let's talk about the subject we're going to cover today. I'm going to talk about reference material and I'm going to talk about inspiration. And they're two slightly different things for me. I have to find a subject where I get excited about it. You're painting something I've got excited about. Because it's spring blossom, I think after the really drab winter, I just love colour. You wouldn't know it today, would you, in my white? But I absolutely love colour. And I think to see the spring blossom on the trees, they're bursting with colour, aren't they? Very exciting, lots of nods going on. It's such a happy time. The thing that was my inspiration, actually, let's just move that for a minute, which doesn't have a lot of colour, is that one there, okay? When our son had finished university, he came home to live, as they do, with no money, no job, and he's got green fingers, and he decided we were all going to be self-sufficient. So he dug up the front garden as well as part of the back garden. But one of the things he did was he planted a pear tree and promptly got a job in China and has been working there for the last 5.5 years. So, of course, Mummy and Daddy have nurtured this pear tree. It's quite hard for us to use this because I can't see the centres of the flowers, and it is the centres of the flowers that tend to make the shape. So I used it, and I sat and looked at it in the garden, and I thought, I know what I want to paint. I want to paint something that means something to me. So it kind of developed a journey, if you like, of then finding some reference material that I think we can use. And the next one that came along was, let's put it that way, was this one that can you see that there? I think you've got a copy of that, actually, if you're here. This lovely one was sent to me by my friend Emily. She runs my workshops in Newbury in Berkshire. And while we're painting, she cooks us a lovely lunch, which is wonderful. And it's her birthday. Happy birthday, Emily. But this was one she got from her garden. It actually was the other way around, but I'm going to leave it like that. And I focused down on some of the blossom here, because the thing that I love is the little stamens. Can you see the little stamens coming out from the side? So we can put a dark background with those lovely white stamens in, and that became also my inspiration, but I should probably use that also as reference material. So can you see the difference? Sometimes you can be inspired by a colour, but then if you're going to use reference material, you need some objects, if you like, or a scene you're going to use. And then the other one I've got, which I actually don't know where this came from, it could have been Emily again. People send me lots of lovely photographs. It's that one there, which is the one really I based my picture on for my reference, so my drawing, if you like. And I think you can see in the background, can you see the out of focus pear blossom? So again, that's very much the sort of way that I like to paint. So what I'm thinking of is, I don't know if you probably all too young to remember, one very young lady here, too young to remember the days when we used to get gifts inside our cereal packets. Oh, a few of you nodding, I'm not the only one, thank goodness. And it was great, wasn't it? And you arrived, and then if your siblings used to have to, you had to take it in turns, didn't you? And then your mother would say, you've got to eat all the cereal up before you get to the bit where it's the present in the middle. Of course, as soon as she goes out the room, your grubby little hands go in, don't they, and grab it and say, well, Mummy, I was pouring it, and it came out. I remember my brother got the one who was the submarines and the parachutes, but I got some plastic glasses, green, red one side, red the other, yeah, and you put them in the little thing and looked, and you had a photograph behind. Am I registering here? And all of a sudden, this flat photograph became 3D. Oh, I love it. And I think about that so often when I'm painting. It was a picture of penguins. So right at the back were the mountains. In the mid-ground, there were some icebergs. And then as you put the glasses on, these penguins suddenly came to life in the foreground. So this is really what I'm thinking about. It's my penguin picture in this. So what I want to do is, instead of having a flat picture, we're thinking as we're painting about, if you like, our distance, our midground, and our foreground. And these pear blossoms here will obviously become our foreground. So we'll be going to do a lot of out of focus flowers. So working on soft and hard edges, which again I really love in a painting. The more soft edges, hard edges that I can see, you know, the happier I am. So we'll be working on those as well. Okay. The other reason I chose it was I felt that if you haven't been painting very long, or you find drawing is your thing that you find hard, some people find the painting more difficult, sometimes the drawing, but for people who are at home, instead of us tracing anything, they'll be able to hopefully, if they want to, draw along with us. So we're going to use some very basic lines. If your blossom doesn't look exactly the same as the photograph, no one's going to know, and it doesn't matter, does it? I like that. You can be quite free with your drawing. So hopefully that will be attainable for everybody. So I say the idea this morning is that we'll work very much on the preparation, if you like, of our picture and our first wash. And then this afternoon, while that's all drying, we'll work this afternoon on developing our foreground blossom and assessing the picture. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to tape our paper down. I've said to everybody here at the beginning, if you are right-handed, do try and have your painting things on the right-hand side. And if you're left-handed, we have one left-handed lady. Are you now left-handed? Yes. Good. You're still left-handed, yes. But have you got your you've got your painting things on the left-hand side. I can usually tell if someone's been painting all their life. They've got things all over the table. They've got hundreds of colours in front of them, and they sometimes say to me, Claire, I get very confused, and I sort of, without sort of being too tough on them, I say, well, how about moving some things off the table you don't need and keeping the things on the table that you do? All right? So if we could tape our paper down, I'm going to use 2 lots of tape because we're going to be painting very wet in wet today. So just to start with, I'm going to put about 1/3 of the tape on the paper. Okay, so if you do it at the same time, that's great. All right, and then move it over and put the tape sort of half on the paper, half on the board. So the first one's 1/3 on the paper and the second one's half on the paper. Are you looking for tape? Right. Let me finish with mine and you can borrow this one. Whatever you haven't got, we will supply for you. You notice they don't give us scissors for health and safety reasons. Right, so 1/3 on the paper. I really don't want this paper lifting when we're painting. There we go. Can you hear me all right? It's like they can hear me, they can't hear each other. Okay. You'll be too busy painting anyway to talk to each other. So while you're sticking that, you've got to test a piece of paper. And if you just feel it, you'll feel that it's fairly thick. We're actually painting on £250 paper today. The SAA have given us Bockingford £250. I like to paint on a thick paper because I use a lot of water and a lot of paint. So this is made by St Cuthbert's Mill, and they make wonderful papers. Yeah? Good. Are we all stuck down? Good. Okay. You might wonder why I have given you a ruler today, as we've got no straight lines. I get a number of people saying to me, Claire, I can't paint with you because I can't draw a straight line. Not a problem, is it, with a ruler? But when we've got a photograph, obviously very often we have perhaps an A6 photograph, and we need to size it up, don't we, or size things down. So I thought if you had a ruler, then we can kind of measure the size of the blossom that we want to put on our paper. Your reference material here that you've got is what our foreground is going to be, but today what we're going to do is we're going to be doing more things going on in the background than just what's going on here. I'm also going to change the colours as well, just a little bit. All right? So I'm just going to start drawing. So if you just watch me just for a while. My main blossom, my number one, if you like, the ones that's the most important one, I want to be this one here. It's more difficult to do flowers when they are actually face on. Okay, have I got face on there? Yes, face on. I tend to want to just tip them slightly, like that. I think they look better, instead of just being like a round plate, if you start tipping them. So what I'm going to do with my main blossom is probably have it just about at that angle. Can you see it there? Is it hard? I tried to find a saucer this morning at home. I do not possess a saucer. The days of cups and saucers is obviously gone, hasn't it? So that for my main flower, and then actually gradually as I'm going away, I might tip it a little bit more, but do it in a slightly different direction. Is that making sense? I know what I'm talking about, but is that helpful? So what I'm trying to say is, instead of having it flat on like this, that you're going to tip them. And you're also going to do them in slightly different directions. As I draw them, I will explain. So your blossoms aren't always all facing the same way. Yes? So a little bit of variety. So this is where I'm saying to you, you're using your reference material as inspiration, not just, I've got to copy absolutely everything. And it's the thing that people find quite hard to start with, isn't it? Is using their imagination. So I think my main one's going to be about 3 inches. I might make it 2 3/4. And for Tara, who's watching, who said to me, laugh because she didn't know what inches were, because she's so young, that is about 7 centimetres or less. I'm afraid I have to do everything in inches, so please bear with me. Are you a centimetres or an inches girl? Inches. If you're at home, though, and you're obviously a lot younger than I am, you obviously work out your centimetres. So what I'm going to do is kind of join the dots. I mean, if I was doing a circle, I would just put the dots there, and obviously you can make your circle. But I want to make it a little more oval. Okay, than that. So the first one I'm going to do is this one here. Let's take it from there, because I can see just a little bit better. Okay. Now, they are not 4-leaf clovers. Now, I need to ask you before I carry on. But once I start drawing, you can't see anything, can you? Here's the problem. I'm going to have to do it quite dark and then obviously rub it out, because I try and teach people not to press too hard on their paper. And here I am pressing really hard on the paper. Okay, but I want to work out, normally if that was round, your middle would be right in the centre. I want to put it slightly off centre. So I'm thinking my centre is there. Yep. Okay, so I'm basically, with the dots, trying to work out the size of this. Now, if it doesn't end up being... Can you see? No, I'm going all light again, aren't I? Is it difficult to see? Yeah. Right, is that better? No? I don't want to press too hard. Just, I don't dare not press too much harder. This goes against the grain, really does. Yeah. Because you know, it's like it starts to groove the paper. I've got that right in the middle there now. Let's get a rubber. Okay, and a brush. If you have to rub things out, I doubt whether you'll have to, of course, but I've got to. What I suggest you do is try and use a dry brush to push away your rubbings out. I want that there rather than... Okay. Is that better? Can you see a bit better now? Yeah. Sure? Okay. Right, this next one, I don't want it facing, because that's where the stains are going to come. I don't want it facing quite the same direction, so let's have it. The lovely thing about a picture like this, you're not doing a commission of someone's house. If it looks slightly different, it really does not matter, does it? Okay, and again, if that one's going that way, I'm just going to face that one going that way just a little bit. Yeah. Okay. I've got quite a long way to the right-hand side, but I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm not actually going to put branches in. You can't see this, and I'm glad about that, because I don't really want you putting the branches in too much. Right, let's do this one here. Again, I'm thinking size. I want it slightly smaller than that one. I'm going to do it with my fingers, because I find it actually easier. Okay, that one's facing that way. I might tip this one up just a little bit. So all I'm doing, I say do put the dots in if it helps you with your size, shape. There we go. Can you see that at all? No, not at all. Okay, just as well they got reference material in front of them, isn't it there? And this one's going to come like that. I say the lovely thing about a picture like this is you can kind of make it up yourself. Can't you? You've got plenty of pictures here to work from. Okay, these are the ones that we really want to stand out. And this one is going to face that way. And I quite like them sitting on top of each other. I've got a little cluster here. And I dare not press any harder than this. I'm really sorry. It won't do the paper any good if I end up scoring it. I always think, you really need to treat your paper with respect. I'm going to come and have a look to see if you can see it or not. Can't see much, can you? Never mind, you've got a photograph. Is that all right? You will do. When I start painting, it'll be a lot easier to see. Okay, right. Let's just put a few little buds in here. I don't want to do too much. I'm just hinting where I'm going to put them. Right, I think that's plenty. I don't want to draw any more because I want to use the paint, my paintbrush, to do the rest of the drawing. Is that all right? If you can't see up there, and I can hear a lady over there having trouble seeing it, use that one, okay? Use the one that you've got in front of you. And if you want to use that one rather than look at what I've done, all I've done is go round the outside. Have you noticed no leaves? I'm not drawing leaves in. Okay, so it's just those 5 heads at the moment. Okay, would you like to give that a go? Just as well you've got a photograph, isn't it? Okay. Yes, but you see, this is real life. If you're painting outside, if you can imagine you're presented with this great big picture, you have to think about proportions. So this is a good exercise for you. So hence the reason I gave you a ruler. Pretty much. That's helpful, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, because we're going to do a lot, as I say, of developing around it. So if you want to measure that. Gary, they've got this at home, haven't they, this reference material? Jolly good, okay. Does it? Okay. I'm going to see if I can just darken it a wee bit. Don't forget to work out where your middles are. It's quite relevant to the direction of the blossom. I don't know whether you could hear Gary said because it's a very bright day, it's a lovely sunny day today, it's making it quite hard to see on the screen there. So think of a saucer. I'm going to come and check and have a wander around. Don't freeze as I walk behind you. I sometimes go and paint with some of my artist professional friends.
I can't see a thing there.
No, it's oh gosh, you can't see anything here, can you? No. Okay. That's becoming a branch. Yes, you've started a twig. It's wonderful. Now look, that's 2.5 inches. It's perfectly all right.
That's all
Please
right.
don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't start worrying about
So
it.
I need to put that one on the other side of it.
Yeah, you really want one sort of tucked behind.
Yeah.
It's quite fun when they're tucked behind because it means we can put shadow and bring this one forward. I've done it myself. Do not worry. Can I just tell people this? This poor lady's just used the red end of her brush, swept it across the paper, and it's made a red mark. I have done it myself. The lovely thing is she's made a branch. So whatever happens, you incorporate it in the picture. I've done it. So the first one, be careful of size. You're getting quite tiny.
My trouble.
Yeah, sorry. It's because it's a bit tall. No, look, you've actually got that. But the thing is, if you start too small, you're going to have this vast expanse of paper to fill. That's it. If you just have a little bit, that's lovely. Yeah. So starting with your first one is really important to get that size right. Lovely. Oh, I'm so glad somebody else is gentle.
I've decided to get it bigger.
Yep. Don't go any smaller, will you? No. I say otherwise you'll find they'll all get a bit too tiny. Are there some out there? Baby wipes, yes. Lovely. So nice to see a man here doing flowers. You know, men are good at doing flowers. Do you enjoy gardening?
Yes.
Good. We should expect great things from you. Lovely. Yes, because so your first blossom is basically a substantial size. Everything can then get a little bit smaller as you go away from it. Wonderful. They've got quite pointed leaves, haven't they? Yeah. Petals, I mean, not leaves, petals. There's a lady over here who's drawing just like I do. Her hand keeps going in the paints while she's drawing. I have hand wipes everywhere with me. It's too easy. This is why getting organised and trying to keep things in the right place is very helpful. Just bear in mind, this is where I said about using your imagination. It does not have to be identical to the reference material you've got in front of you. It's good to start with something that you can refer to, but if it's not identical, as I say, nobody is going to know, as long as it looks like a blossom. And this is what I love about doing certain flowers. I mean, poppies are like this. They're so floppy, aren't they? Pretty much any shape that you do is going to work for a poppy. So this is the only sort of detailed drawing that we're really going to do with the pencil. Yeah. Can you see that's lovely? How it's become a branch going over everything.
Thank you.
See, you're using your imagination already. Mistakes are always things that you can make into some of the most delicious things, within reason, of course. So that's nice, because actually what's happening to me now, you're almost making the bigger one,
Yeah,
your main
yeah.
one down here, which is lovely, because it's
Fiddling with that one first.
I tell you what, it's because it's face on, it's a little more difficult, isn't it, actually? Yeah. Okay. Isn't it nice not spending hours having to draw something?
I quite like drawing.
Yeah. Let's see what this lady's doing. Nice. Few little buds. Mm. Happy?
Yes.
Jolly good.
Are they big enough?
Yes, of course. Yes. You just want a few down here. Don't go mad. It looks sort of they're floating at the moment, but we will be filling in. But try not to do the branches or the leaves at this stage. I'll just leave it a few more minutes and then we'll move on. Right, if I'm about 2 minutes and I'll move on to the next stage. You can do it. I will wait, don't worry, you're looking worried now. I wait, don't worry, it's all right. You're worried now. Don't worry about the ruler now. As long as you look at it and think, as long as you look at it and think, it looks right to you. The only thing that doesn't look right to me is perhaps this one here.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. What's happening is, I'm not going to do it for you, but I'm just going to point. You think once that middle's in, if you just bring it so that it's more like that.
That's it, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
It helps so much when you put the centres of the flowers on. All of a sudden, they seem to look a little more real, make sense a bit more. Is anybody struggling and wants a hand? Please don't all put your hands up at once. Happy? Okay, well, just a few of you just finishing off with that. Just a little tip. I don't know whether any of you have ever used this before. You'll probably say, why are you doing it with yours, Claire? We can't see your drawing up on the screen, unfortunately. They'll be able to see it better at home, will they, Gary? Yes, okay, fine. I very often will use something like blue tack. If I feel like the drawing is too strong, I would just tap it with some blue tack. Well, you can't see this actually, obviously on the screen up here, but hopefully they can at home. It's just lifting some of the pencil marks where I am not happy because it's too dark for me. Has anybody ever used this method before? Yes. It's better to me than using a rub. If you're not careful, you start rubbing out and then you look and think, oh gosh, I've rubbed too much out now. So I'm just tapping it just to get rid of some of the hard lines. I mean, as it happens, because we're going to put a darker background behind, it doesn't matter too much, but I don't really want to see these lines too much. So does anybody feel their drawing is perhaps a little bit stronger than they would like it to be? Or you've all been very gentle and delicate this morning? I didn't notice anybody's too dark. And check how you're getting on, and then we can move on. Mother and daughter? How nice. What a lovely hobby to share. Isn't that nice? Quite strong drawing. Yeah. Would you consider rubbing out or tapping it just a little bit? Yes, just a little bit. It's a beautiful drawing. Right, okay. Lovely, yes, really nice. I'm going to move on, but it doesn't mean to say, if you could just watch for a second because it's quite relevant. The next thing I'm going to do, or after this, is we need to establish where our light source is coming from. It's one of the things that's very important, and so often when we're painting out, and particularly when I'm painting outside, I'll say to people, where is your light coming from? And they'll go, because when we're painting inside from photographs, we can choose, can't we? To me, the sun is always shining. I don't do grey and miserable if I can help it. So the sun's always shining in my life. So I, generally speaking, because I'm right-handed, I tend to like to have the sun coming from top left? Yes? What about the lady who's left-handed here? Today you can choose. Your sun can be wherever you want it to be. Same as me. Okay, well, I'm going to be top left. And the reason is obviously then when we start putting just some very gentle shadows on our petals and also underneath, anything underneath, we need to know. So I'm just going to draw my... You won't be able to see this, I don't suppose, because of... Can you see anything? No, can you not see that? No, dear. Good idea. Thank you, Gary's just suggested a blob of blue tack. A blue tack sun. You've obviously an experienced painter, Gary, there at the back. Seen it all. Right. There is my sun. Can you see that? Beautiful looking sun, isn't it? Blue blob. There we go. Okay, because I usually do a smiley face with my sun, but I can't even do that today, as you can't see it. Okay, what we are going to do is we are going to mask around these white flowers. Ooh. If you desperately don't like using masking, some people particularly don't, fair enough. You just have to keep that paper dry. The reason why I like to use mask, as I say, I like some hard edges, some soft edges. Now, if we were to mask them, what they'll do is we put the wash behind, they will begin to stand forward. Okay, I want them to be in the foreground. And it also acts really as a navigator. I think when you put some masking on, it does help when you're painting, for me, to sort of think, right, that's where the whites are. I'm going to use blue mask because I find it easier to see. I'm lucky enough to have a little container now to put mine in. I always recommend to my students, if they're using masking fluid, try and put it in a little tray or a saucer. Have any of you ever spilt masking fluid? Few nods, hands up. When you take the top off, I've cleaned mine. As you take the top off, you notice sort of it goes ping, and there's a great sort of stretchy, gluey bit. And then if you don't take that off, you put your pen on there and it catches it, and there goes. And I think these are quite full. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my little saucer. If you could perhaps put it on your palette or something, at least if it spills.
So we're not using this one?
We will be. We will be. This one first. So I will show you if you want to watch. I'm going to use a ruling pen. Has anybody not used a ruling pen? Oh, lots of hands going up. Oh, good. Right, let's do some practice then. The reason I like to use a ruling pen, you have actually, I believe some of you have got a brush, a masking brush. So on your practice piece of paper, have a play, decide what you want to use. All right? But would you like, it's the black one, and it says SAA masking fluid brush. Now, I personally prefer to use a ruling pen, so I'm just going to show you how to use the ruling pen and to get it to flow. All right, let's go like that. I am going to hold my bottle. I had one lady in a class with me once, and she got hold of this, and it caught one of those stringy bits. It came right the way across her, down her legs, into her leather handbag, and filled her handbag. What a sweetie. Yes, I'll come and help you with it in 1 second. That was a very good question. Someone said, should it be open? We'll do that. And she was a sweetie. She said to me, don't worry, Claire, it missed my picture. And there was this beautiful, all down her lovely trousers. What a sweetie. So ever since, I've suggested you keep it in a bowl. This lady's asked a really important question. You have got a wheel on here. The idea is it opens and closes the end. So this is why you need to have a play, and then you'll be able to work out how open and closed you want that to be. Yeah? So let me just show you how I use it, and then it'll give you an idea of why I like to use it. Apart from the fact, if that dries on there, it's not going to ruin it, where if it dries on a brush, well, you know, don't you? Brush is ruined. Okay, so I'm just going to hold it upright, and look how it flows. So I'm going to go round the outside. This is my test piece of paper. Right round the outside of my flower. Yay! Well, that's brilliant, isn't it? Okay, the lovely thing about this as well, and I will show you because I'm going to do the real thing in a minute, is if you put it sideways, you can colour in with it. Do you see? And I'm using it quite thick. The lovely thing about using it blue, you can see it, can't you? Hooray! If that was white, you'd be going, I can't see a thing. All right? So shall I just do mine, and then I will show you. And the other thing someone asked is, I will be using my fine liner, but I'm going to use those for some stamens. And we're also going to draw a few flowers in with this as well, just for fun. Right, so I'm just going to go round the outside. And I can do this quite quickly. Sometimes, I mean, if you're really good at drawing, you can actually avoid the pencil and just go straight in with a ruling pen with the masking. But what it does is this stops the background paint we're going to put on from seeping into the flower. So you have to be careful when you're painting. What you don't want is to get your colour inside here, otherwise you'll end up with white tram lines. Okay. You can see those now, can't you? Hooray. So a quick wiggle round these. You can see, if you get used to it, how fast it is. So if you want to have a practice with it, and then you can decide whether you'd rather use one of these or use a brush, if that's what you're used to. Okay, I know you're busy doing that at the moment, but I'm also going to do some white ends to my buds. But as you can now see it, you'll be able to have a look at it in a second if you're busy. I've got some white ends of the buds peeking out here. Is anybody struggling with the ruling pen? No, you're obviously concentrating so hard. Some people are using a brush anyway. Whatever suits you. And I can't help it. I'm just going to have a few. Now someone's going to be clever and tell me what these are called. It's where the sunlight catches the dust particles. Are they called fronds? I'm looking for you, Gary. Not fountain of all knowledge. No, the little dots, you know in the summer where you get little dust particles, and I expect someone's at home got their hand up saying, I know what it is. Motes, not fronds, motes. Well done, I'm afraid there's no prize. Of course they are. Motes, why do I not remember that? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? I'm not the only one that sees dust particles. They was always thought they were fairies, didn't we, when we were little?
That's much nicer.
Use imagination, yes, of course. Got to use your imagination. Of course they're fairies. Flying fairies. Now, if you're looking, I'm just filling in a little bit at the top where paint's going to be running. Right, let's come and check how you're managing then. Is anybody using a ruling pen who's never used it before? And are you managing? Oh, exciting. Whoa.
Do we do the inside petals or just
No, that's what we're going to use the fine one for. They're the stamens. So,
I mean, I haven't drawn these petals here because
oh yes, do that please, join them up. So each flower is separate. Yes, please. for the moment. It's just so that it gives you a guideline. So it's quite fast, isn't it, using one of these? Sorry. Yep. So you'll be able to go home at the end of the day and say, the best thing I learned is how to use a ruling pen.
Can I put them in so I can do it?
Yes, I can see. Just be really careful you don't knock it over, won't you? Masking fluid doesn't tend to like carpets either. This is where I would get... Have you got any kitchen towel? Did you have any kitchen towel on your table? Lovely. Look right next to me where I can't see it. I am going to wipe the top. Okay, it's always good to wipe the top of your masking pot. I can see you all with lots of gooey bits at the top. Thank you, this is where the pen so often catches it, and it goes for a Burton. There, I feel better now, I've taken it off, well done. Yes? Used it before?
No, it's first time using it. First time using it. We have used masking fluid.
But this first time using a ruling pen?
Yeah, I like it better actually.
They're good, aren't they?
We haven't used it yet.
Oh, excellent. It was worth coming all this way then, wasn't it? Really? It's good to hold it upright because it tends to flow better. You won't knock it over, sir, will you? No. Promise me. I should probably wipe it and knock it over. I'm going to leave it with you. That's a good idea. This gentleman's put it right in the middle of his masking tape. That's a genius idea. Using your imagination. That's what I like to see. Wonderful. Gives you a better idea, doesn't it, of your composition as well. These little buds, probably better to fill them in.
With the fluid.
With the fluid.
Every one of them.
Well, now that you've gone all the way round, if you can notice, I've just put white at the end because actually they're surrounded by the pink, which is the centre.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. If you've gone round the outside of your buds, fill them in. But if you can see what I've done on the screen, I've just done the end because that's the only white bit. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, haven't you done well, considering you can't see a thing on the screen? Worked out all right in the end, didn't it?
Yes, they're gradually getting bigger.
Yeah, well, that's good. They're closer.
Well, that's exactly.
Excellent. Yes, you're going to need to, if you'd be so kind. Yes, please, fill them in. Lovely.
The white bits at the back here, if we want those, obviously the other blossom, is it an idea to mask that in?
No, it's a really good question. Really good question. Won't name names, even though I know your name. Really good question. Where's the photograph? Here we go. I'm trying to find the reference photograph. Here it is. Something this lady said, do you see the white blossom at the back here in the distance? We definitely won't mask those. The reason being, what masking does, it gives you a very hard edge. So if you want anything that's got a soft edge or is out of focus in the distance, try not to mask because it brings it forward and makes it very sharp. Yep. Are you all going to remember where your sun is? It's sometimes actually worth drawing a little sun in, like my beautiful blue masking blob. Okay. Can I move on to the next bit? Are we pretty much there? Yes? Smiles? Okay, right. Hand wipes. The next thing I'm going to use is I am going to use the fine liner. Now we're going to use that actually for some stamens. Okay, so what I have decided to do is I'm going to add a few more blossom heads down the bottom here. Yep, can I move on? Right, I'm just going to put just a few. I'm going to show you this one here. As I said to you, I love the way these stamens are coming out from the blossom. So I'm not going to put them at the top. I'm just going to decide where you want them. I'm going to put just a few, and I'm going to put it in. You can draw it if you want to, but I'm going to put it in just with the masking. I'm doing this one here. I just want a few down here. If you're brave enough to go straight in with the masking, that is wonderful. And they don't have to be complete, these flowers. I want them to be a little bit, you can see a bit, and not something else. See, it's quite indistinct. They almost look like flying birds, don't they? Look, look, look. No, I'm using that. I'm using that for inspiration. I said I like the stamens. I like the stamens. So I need to do this, don't I, so that you can see. I like the stamens. I'm just doing a few petals. And you're not really meant to know that those are the blossom. They're meant to be slightly abstract. If you want to do them exactly as in the photograph, that is absolutely fine. And then we will use the fine liner. I tell you what, shall I get on and do the fine liner? Then if you don't want to put those in, right. Ready? Okay, we are going to do the stamens with the fine liner. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate on here, that is dry. The thing with this is not to squeeze it. If you squeeze it, it blobs. Okay, it's going to be very interesting. If it does blob, please leave it to dry. The worst thing you can do is rub masking fluid out and spread it on your paper, because it will make it very, very difficult to get it off. All right? So what I'm imagining is I'm going to do my stamens here in the centre of these flowers, because you can see how dark, finger clay, you can see how dark the centres are. I want to have some white stamens coming out from the centre of my blossom. Yeah. Okay, so I'm trying not to squeeze. Right, let's get it going. Can you see what I'm doing here? No, let's do it in the middle. Right. So I'm squeezing. Ooh, you see I've squeezed. Can you see what's happened as I squeezed? So what I want to do is do this and not squeeze. Okay, so they're going to be my stamens. And the less you can squeeze, the better. So let's do it actually on my picture, and hopefully it will make sense. Okay, so I'm taking it from the centre and just kind of scratching a few out like this. If you don't have any of this at home, you could always use something like a toothpick, put some masking fluid on and use a toothpick. Is it making sense what I'm doing? Yes. Thank you. Someone said yes. But have a practice. I'm not squeezing it, I'm just touching it on the paper. And if it starts to come out too fast, give it a wipe. Because this is going to be our darkest against lightest bit. I've managed to completely blob this. It's so good for you to practice with these things. They're quite hard to get back on. You need good eyesight.
Is there a spare one of these? The needle has got stuck. It's got jammed in.
It has a problem, doesn't it? Let's swap. You have that one. I don't need mine anymore. It's probably where the top's gone back on and it's bent it. No, that's fine. No, it's just the nib that's the problem. What you need to do is flick with it. It's like this. It's hard, isn't it? You perhaps try, that's it. That's it. These look a little bit like flying birds. You might want to just join a couple together to make them a little bit more distinct. What's happened with mine is I've smudged it with my wrist, which is why it looks. I think that's probably enough. You have a go with this and try and do the middle. Is that all right?
Yeah, exactly. It could be
Oh, expert.
Not really, it's first time.
Obviously, you're very gentle. I keep knocking you as you.
I think it might be. I've not used it before.
Okay, let's have a go.
You've squeezed it and it's leaked.
It does if you squeeze it.
And it won't come out the top.
Let's try another one. Here we go. Have a go with that one, see if that one works. If it does make a blob, don't wipe it off, will you? You're better off waiting for it to dry.
I'm not sure it's coming out around the bottom of it. There, coming out around there.
Okay. This does take practice. Can I try it on there? Right, I'm hardly touching it. I know what it is. It's dried on the top. Here we go. Can you see how it's...
Yeah, I mean, I started doing it all right, then it went
But it's not running very well.
No.
So I think what's happened, it's probably got dried. If somebody left the top off, perhaps. Have you got the top there? Are you happy to share in a minute? Just to wipe the...
There's the top.
All right, okay, if you're happy to share. We are having fun with this. All I keep hearing is no squeezing, don't squeeze. Oh, I think that has gone a bit, definitely gone a bit dry. I think we'll wait until someone's finished with theirs. Is that all right? Thank you. Okay, look. This just goes to show how important it is to put the top back on. Otherwise it will... Have you got a spare top there? Thank you. There we go. Let's give you that one. I mean, this is partly why you come up to the head office, isn't it? To try new art materials. It's a wonderful opportunity to try before you buy. But it does take practice. And when you've got used to it, it's a very, very useful tool. Yes. There we go.
There's no bulky thing in.
Okay.
By mistake.
Oh, did you? All right, darling. I'll sort it out. Do not worry. No, I shall pop them over here and deal with them. Don't worry. Right. Now, if you've got blobs, just leave them for the time being. All right? So while we're mixing our paints, which we'll be doing in a minute, that will get a chance to dry. Can I make a suggestion? If you fill these in, because what's going to happen is, perhaps with the other one, you'll find it very hard to go round them otherwise, and you'll get tram lines. Not quite working, are they?
No. Terrible.
No. We'll talk about this before we start painting, I think. These look a little bit like jellyfish. No, you can't see if I... You know why? Because I've smudged my hand on it. Right. Okay. Are you ready for me to move on? That was an interesting... A couple of minutes. You need incredibly good eyesight to do this. I think... There we go. It is hard.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Can I just say to you, if you're trying to copy that bit there, that's the bit where I put my wrist on the paper and went like that. So if you're copying that bit, it's a mistake. Fortunately, we can take it off. It's still wet. Can you see when it's still wet? It's quite hard because it stays very shiny and very tacky, doesn't it? Blue masking fluid. But I can see where it's wet in the middle. It takes a little while to dry. But that will be dry by the time we've mixed our paints up. Somebody just said a couple of minutes, and then we'll get on to colours. No, it just needs good eye. No, it just takes... No, you have got it on. You just have to be very patient. I think that's a job for me. It is on, so it's sealed. That's my lunchtime job. I think what's happened is if the top is left off for a long time, it starts to dry and it's hard to put the top on. If you had it at home, you'd never do that, would you? Yes. Yes. I might get some cocktail sticks out and we'll have a practice with that. Okay, couple of things. If you are finding that really quite hard to use that fine point because it does take quite a long time to get used to it, I am going to give you an idea of how to use a cocktail stick. Let's see if this will work. If you've got a pen at home that's got a very fine nib, yes, you can also use that for doing fine lines. The ruling pens are wonderful, but they don't do really fine lines. So I'm going to do it over here instead of sticking my... Look, you see, that's what I did. I managed to put that, see, on top of that and wonder why it's smudged. Not a good plan. Okay. So I, at home, very often, if I haven't got one of those, will use a fine nib. So what you can do, let's actually do it on here so you can see it. So I'm imagining that is my middle. And I'm going to use a cocktail stick just to gather it. Can you see that? I'll do it a bit bigger and you'll be able to see it. Right, this is my middle. I'm accentuating the size of it so that you can see. And I'm taking cocktail sticks and just dragging it. Do you see? That works rather well, doesn't it? Most of us have got a cocktail stick somewhere. Okay? There's a good idea. Sometimes we find out, don't we, by trying things, what works for us and what doesn't. Okay? If you are not happy with any of your masking fluid, which obviously I'm not, I must make sure I take that off before I start painting. Yeah? Right, are we ready to get some paints ready? It's the exciting bit, isn't it? Yes? Not quite? Yeah? No, it won't be. We've got to mix our colours up first. That's the great thing. Mix the colours up, and during that time, the masking fluid will dry. And I will be taking some things off before I start painting, because I've made such a splodge. All right? So if you'd like to mix your colours along with me, I'm just going to go through the colours I've got first. Let's Let's do it that way round. Right, okay. Now, when I'm planning my colours, it's a huge part of what has inspired me in the first place. I'm going to give a different coloured background to the example that you have got today. Make sure I don't put it on my... I'm not going to be doing the peachy background with the mauve bottom. The reason why I did those colours was because this particular pear tree was against a brick wall. So I was kind of put the colour in for the orangey bricks, and then this mauvey colour was kind of the shadows underneath. I wanted it to be very loose, because that was really just a study rather than a finished picture when I did this. Does that make sense? I want to imagine that I am looking at my blossom, and I'm looking up through the tree at the most beautiful blue sky, sort of blue skies that we've had recently. And I'm going to drop some colours into the background. We'll be doing a lot of wetting the paper, dropping colours in, all right? But when I'm planning my colours, I'm always thinking I want one each at least of the primary colours. So I need to have one yellow, one red, one blue at least. Does that make sense? So my standard palette would be probably lemon yellow, something like raw sienna, probably some sort of pink with burnt sienna, because it's such a good mixer. A cobalt and an ultramarine is my standard palette, and then I will perhaps add things to it. But yellow, red, blues. I had an exhibition a few years ago, and I put up on the stand a picture of Venice, and almost everybody said, "Oh, I love that picture, Claire. I'd love to have it." And when the exhibition had finished, it was one of the few pictures that was left on the stand. And I thought, why did that happen? And I took it home and I looked at it and I thought, yes, because of course it was predominantly yellow and blue. It didn't have the red colour in it that gave it that balance. And even people that know nothing about painting knew it wasn't quite right. Does that make sense? They must have done. I found it so interesting. I didn't have it, so I took it out of the frame and I put some red in the gondolas and put it back in the frame, and it sold. And I thought, my goodness me, what a lesson. And I find it works really well. You'll notice I've got some white here in your palette. I used to be the old school of the purist. I'm afraid as I've got older, I've got a little bit naughty and I break the rules. So we may use some white today. It is the only opaque colour in my palette. I do love transparent watercolours. If I'm going to use an opaque colour, which of course you can always tell because when you wash your brush out, it's sort of chalky, isn't it? So opaque colours have got a chalky substance that's quite good as a body paint. But it's fine on a first wash.
It's confusing the colour.
It's confusing the colour. The experts come to put me right, okay? When I'm doing my first wash, I don't mind using some opaque colours sometimes. But when I do subsequent washes, I don't really like using opaque colours. The reason being, you can't see through them as well to your lovely colours underneath. Does that make sense? Took me ages to work that one out. So we'll see. We'll see. That might break the rules, though, with the white. So I'm going to put it out there for you. And we'll see how we go, because I can't always tell till I start painting how I'm going to feel. Okay, I've got one lemon yellow. This is a colour I love. It's a lovely colour. You can always make it in. It's a cool yellow. You can always warm it up by using a little pink in it, and I will show you in a second. I'm using quinacridone magenta. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And again, yes, it's a lovely colour. And again, I'm going to have a little play with it in a minute. The burnt sienna makes wonderful browns, blacks, greys. I use that as a mixer more than anything, unless obviously I'm doing some terracotta pots. This one is tropical phyllo blue. Beautiful colour. Absolutely love this colour. I will use this, as it's very transparent, this one. I'm going to use it in the sky like a cerulean. It will give us a sort of a nice summer colour. Cobalt blue, I will automatically have some of that in my sky, and I will also use that with the pink to make my mauves. You don't have to remember all this, we will go through it again. And then the ultramarine will be the one that I use to make the branch colours and also to make my greens. And then this one I've got here is Neutral Tint in brackets, green shade. It's a lovely colour. So what I'm going to do is just take those away and put them up. I think I'll put them over here for now. You've just got to remember all those colours, haven't you? So I might say to you number 1 and number 3 or something when I'm mixing. Has anybody ever used a pipette? I use a pipette all the time. Now what you've got is you've got 2 pots of water between you. What I like to do is keep 1 pot for clean water and 1 pot for mixing, because we're going to put clean water on the paper. Now you have a choice. You can either share the pots nicely and use 1 for washing your brush out and 1 clean, or just go for it and then get some clean water before you start your mix. Okay, but before you put your paper, oh, Gary's going to bring you some water, how nice. Before we do our wash, I will show you, we'll need clean water. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is squeeze, and I'm going to kind of charge, what I call charge the paint. So put just a little tiny drop, because it's very warm in here, and they just need a bit of lubrication, like we probably do. And some of them actually, it's interesting, like the neutral tint, has stayed a little more liquid, for example, than the ultramarine. This happens. It's just the consistency of them is all different. Okay. So I'm going to get you to mix your paints up with me. And what I'm going to suggest is that you use your number 8. I think we've got a number 8 here, or have you got number 6? But what I call your middle-sized brush. You've got a 6 or an 8? To use to mix your colours in your palette. If you use anything bigger, if you think about it, every time you wash it out on your water, you're losing so much of your paint. And then, although it doesn't always matter, it's just seems a waste and you get dirty water. Now this is why I said to you, every tutor paints differently. And what I do is when I mix my, if you like, my mixtures up, I use very little water in the palette. Okay? I put a lot of water on the paper, or a certain amount on the paper, but I don't add much water in my palette. My feeling is you could always make them weaker. But if you're in the middle of painting and you've made a very watery mix, you think, oh my goodness me, it's going to fade too much. You don't want to fiddle about, do you, putting more pigment in? All right? So I'm just going to wet my brush, take some of the lemon yellow, and put it in there, and just add a little bit of water. That is not a lot. Can you see how bright that is? It's very little water. I'm going to get you to do it this way, and then when you go home, you can go back to what you like doing if it's not what you want. But I like to keep mine strong. And then obviously wash your brush out in between. Okay? If you go along and do the same with every single one, and just actually, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do the quinacridone magenta first. And then stop. Isn't that a lovely colour? I am going to put an apron on. Pink loves me. And very often these pinks are staining colours, as you find out to your peril if you've got a white top on. Okay, so I'm just going to put that on the paper a minute. That's very strong, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more water to that. I just want to show you, if you add lots of water to it, look what a gentle pink colour that you can get. This is why I love to work with different tones within colours. Okay. don't mix up the burnt sienna if you'd be so kind just at the moment. We will go down to the next one, which is our tropical phthalo blue. Now this is a very strong colour, as is the quinacridone magenta. Very vibrant. Yep. Oh, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm not getting you to mix that one up just at the moment because we're not going to use it just by itself. Okay, let's move down to the next one, which is the cobalt blue. Let's mix plenty of that because that's our sky colour and we're going to need lots of the sky colour. Pass. I'm not going to repeat the question. No. That's all right. We'll start a discussion. Okay. Right, have we got down to the cobalt? I am now going to take some of the lemon yellow, in fact quite a lot of the lemon yellow, down to the ultramarine, which is the second from the bottom. And plenty of it, please. Yep. And to that lemon yellow, I'm going to add just a small amount, not too much, of the ultramarine blue, second from the bottom, and add it to this lemon yellow. This is going to be our leaf colour, light leaf colour that we're going to put in our first wash. It doesn't particularly matter if it's not identical to mine, but you want a light green. Little bit more ultramarine with that, actually. This lady who was saying, is that the same? It's quite hard. Are the colours looking... I'll just see what you're seeing. No, that's lovely. Yes, yeah, I don't think we need to worry about it. As long as it's a light green, that's good enough. Okay, and then would you please get out your lovely neutral tint green shade. Is this a new colour for some people? Good. I don't know, because that's traditionally black, isn't it? I think they probably start with the black and then add the greens to it. I don't actually know, I might be wrong, but I don't actually know anyone else who makes this particular shade, this green, neutral tint green shade. I think it's really special, this colour. Is it? I've got lots of people saying here it compares with other makes of paints. And it doesn't matter, but I'm not going to repeat the question because we'll get into two conversations about... Okay. Are we nearly there? Now, here's the question. Have we mixed up enough paint for our picture? Okay. You know, when you used to go on school trips, and if you were lucky, Mummy would give you some spending money, wouldn't she? And you used to come back with things like fridge magnets and things like that you never used again. If you're thinking of having some little souvenirs from the day, recommendations of things that you really must have, apart from a pipette, a muffin palette. They are wonderful things, look, muffin palettes, to mix up plenty of washes. When I do this again, what I don't do is I see a lot of people putting a lot of water in, then adding the paint. So you've got this sort of wishy-washy colour. So again, I mix them exactly the same way, and I will have quite a strong mixture in there and then take some out and add some water, it makes a super tool for doing big washes. We decided not to do them, just haven't got enough room on your tables really to put any more on the table. But that is, I think they're £2. They are really worth having. I am not employed here to sell you things. I'm only telling you because I have loads of those when I'm painting. So if you found some interesting things today, good, good, good. Right, first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to get rid of the masking fluid. Mine has all dried now. I'm going to get rid of the one where I went like this with my arm. Has anybody used the mask away? Oh, yep, okay, it's good. Because instead of rubbing like this, you are literally going to snatch with it. So look, I'm just touching it. Look how it snatches it up. It's wonderful for removing masking fluid. Okay, I actually usually cut mine into 4, so it's a little bit more manageable at home. A good tool, but I've got all sorts of smudgy bits on here. I'm going to make a suggestion. Just a few of you, and again, I will not name names, and I include myself, have got some sort of things down here that perhaps aren't quite working. We've got some sort of things that look a bit like animals down here, and it's my fault. I should not really have suggested that you put them down there. So if you want to take them off, now is the time, okay, to take those off. You will notice I tested my masking fluid on the paper before I started using it. I put some on and I took it off. You always need to test your paper before you use masking fluid. Okay? So make sure it comes off properly. So if it's dry, okay, so if you want to do that, and I'm going to start the first wash. Okay, so what's going through my head is quite a lot at this stage for my first wash. What I'm wanting to do is put a background. I talked about the sky and any other colours that you feel may be in the background. I might put some greens in. I don't know till I get going. Is that all right? Depends what I feel like. In fact, I might even mix a mauve up. Yeah, I think I might mix some mauve up. I'm going to take some of this cobalt. I'm having a mauve feeling. I'm putting it where the old burnt sienna is because I haven't got anywhere else to put it. All right? So I'm putting just a little bit of cobalt and a touch of this quinacridone magenta. You need so little, and it changes colour very quickly. Oh, nice. There you go, you've got a lovely mauve colour. I just like to have mauve in my pictures. Okay, so as I say, what's happening is I'm thinking my background, my skies, any other colours I want right at the back, and then I'm thinking about my midground. Now these are going to be the blossom and maybe a few leaves, I don't know till I get going, that is out of focus. On your picture, let's look at this one. Do you see you've got some blossoms here that are obviously out of focus, all right? So are you happy? I'll get going and watch. Okay, right. The reason you've got a big brush is I am going to wet the paper all over. First thing I'm going to do is take my number 10 brush, though, and go round the outside of my blossom. I'm tucking right up. I don't know if you can see where my brush is. Right up. If you could watch this, and then you'll be able to go for it, because you'll need to concentrate when you're painting. Okay, I'm tucking right up so that I'll get a hard edge. If you don't take the water right up there, then you won't get that sharp edge. Okay, right over at these. Oh, if only this was magic painting, we'd be finished by now, wouldn't we? Now, I've got water that's gone inside my flower, okay? I'm not going to worry about it, but just be really careful, because I say what you don't want is have white lines, like tram lines appearing. Okay, so we need this paper pretty wet. Okay, I can now have a bit of a slop here. You've got a spray bottle here. Okay, so I'm pretty much soaking that paper. I don't know whether you can see, oh, you can see shiny paper, can't you? What you need to do is, just while that's sinking in, you want to have a charge. Can you see that fine mist spray? Can't really see it there, can you? I love a fine mist spray. You want to keep your paper damp. Okay? This is why we've done quite strong colours. So if you want to test it, try not to spray it in your neighbour's face, especially if you're dependent on them taking you home. It's not a good look, really. Right, okay, I'm going to get started and see what happens. You need some more water. Do you want to watch me? And then I'd like you to watch me, and then you have a go. So you'll be able to get your clean water then. Is that all right? Thank you. And just because we're filming doesn't mean to say you can't get up. It's all right. You're allowed. Okay? I notice, oh, I've got some yellow going on there. I notice you've all got yours up on blocks. I tend to paint mine flat. I'm going to show you why, because at some point, I'm going to have to untape it. Is that all right, Gary? Because I need to start tipping my board at some point. And how I paint is, I like the water to move the paints around, not you. I don't want you shoving them around. So at some point, can you still see it if I tip it like that? Yeah? See it already beginning to dry. It's very warm in here, isn't it? So I want to keep it moist. If it's not moist, your paints won't move. Right. Oh, look, I nearly did what you did. Okay, right, so I'm going to go in with my cobalt. It is strong, but we know about watercolour, don't we? It dries a lot drier, doesn't it? So tuck right up. Now what I'm going to try and do, I want to make sure I've got colour next to my white flowers. But away from them, I might leave some white gaps. Now what I'm not doing is going round like that, haloing it. Okay, so that's coming down. So before it goes too much, I want that. Can you still see if I do that? Can you see I'm asking that paint to move? All right? I'm not shoving it. I'm getting it to move, and it's already drying around the outside here. Right, so let's go with some more. I'm leaving just a few little white gaps here and there, but not against sort of flower shapes. And tuck in. You will find your paper will begin to dry quite quickly while you're doing this. So you may have to come in. And the reason why I like the spray bottle, you're not then putting wet water next to a drying paint, which is our danger cauliflower idea, isn't it? If you spray it, it will even it out a lot better. Okay, I'm going to get quite... See, look who's run out of paint. Don't do what I do, please. Do what I tell you. I've got a lovely point on these brushes, so I can make sure. You'll get to the end and some of you will say, oh, I haven't left any white parts, Claire. I'm not worried, it doesn't matter. So busy concentrating. Let's bring a bit of this down here. Okay, and I'm now going to drop some of the phthalo blue in. This will, look at this colour. Okay, so I'm putting on and I'm going to tip it and I'm going to get the water to do the moving. If it's not moving, give it a spray. Can you see that? I must make sure I keep it. Can you see that moving now? Yeah. And I'm rather liking this. Oh yes. If you see, look, it's the water that's moving the paint. I'm still stuck down here. Okay. That way, I'm getting some more even edges. Okay. Let's put some up here as well. It looks so strong, doesn't it? Does it look strong on there? This is watercolour. You come back after lunch and think, oh, where's my paint gone? Do any of you have this problem where you say, oh, my painting's always a bit wishy-washy? No? Yes? Anybody? Yes. It's because it dries. Right, I'm going to use some of this colour down here. It's a sunny day. Okay. See, I'm beginning to get a bit kind of abstract now. Right. Can't help it. Let's have some yellow in. Now, if I put the yellow in, I'm going to end up with some... I'm kind of making a pattern. Okay, let's do some... Just do some tipping. I've got some imaginary leaves going on there. This is my yellow element that I want to have in my picture. So it's mixing with the blue. Okay, let's make sure you can see it. I get carried away with the tipping. See, I've got a line coming there, so I must make sure I keep... Can you still see it? Okay. So you can see I've got some leaves in there, but I'm not actually drawing them. And I'm going to stop. There we go. Right, so what colour shall I have down here? I might have some... bit of yellow down here as well. I did say you had to use your imagination, didn't I? I'm hoping that this is becoming kind of the mid-ground. Right, and now I'm going to go in with my pink. I am going to imagine I have got some, oh, look at that, some buds, things going on here. So I'm putting the paint on and leaving it, yeah? I'm trying not to fiddle too much. And as it mixes with the blue, it's making purple. That's fine. I'm happy with that. I've got a middle there because that's a white flower, a sort of middle there. And now I'm going to take some purple and just fill in some little bits. Oh, look, as that purple goes with the yellow, it's making a green. I love that. So you did say, didn't you, don't run out of colour. So I've run out of colour. There we go, got some purple here. I'm putting it next to the yellow. I'm not shoving it into the yellow. Okay, let's tip. So I'm hoping in a minute, not really moving much, is it? I'm quite glad it's not moving too much. But if it doesn't move too much, it means that it's obviously going to be stronger when it dries. And you don't always know until you stop whether something's worked or not. And I think I'm going to stop. But that's my busy background. And obviously, over lunch, that will quieten down quite considerably. Do you see what I mean? You're using your imagination, okay, to get some things going on in the background. If they all fade, we can always go back later. That'll be the assessing our picture, finishing off. I'm going to leave it there. My temptation to carry on is so huge. Look, I have got a gap. fill the gap. So what I'd like you to do is if you could make sure your picture's dry, remove any of your masking that you don't want and get some clean water. And I'm fiddling. Don't do it. No, I was just filling a hole in. It was different, wasn't it? Okay, but can you see the problem? If you've got it on a tilt, your painting is telling you how it's going to behave. I want you to be in control. And if you tip it and have it flat the rest of the time, I'm on a tilt, obviously. Yes? 1, 2, 3, go. So I love this. Artists, you've got... I won't tell you the time you've got. Just go for it. Yes. Yes, of course. I use the cobalt, so mix that first, and a tiny bit of the pink, the quinacridone. But in proportion, the pink's very little. Yes? So clean water, please, to go on your page, and you probably will need to use your spray. Has it? Okay, I'm just going to have a look.
I used that to sort of flatten it, but you can see it quite there.
Has a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Texture.
Texture.
I've got a bit of that too.
Oh, good.
A little bit of texture.
Yes, because I need a bit of texture.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's absolutely fine. Gosh, aren't they fast? My word. Go, go, go. Oh, that's good. I don't mind. Right. Yes.
Is this the cobalt or this one?
That's the cobalt.
That's the cobalt.
You'll know when you put that on the paper. It's very turquoise, very strong.
Okay. So it's the cobalt first.
I did the cobalt first because I'm thinking sky.
Yeah.
But you're obviously going to wet the paper first, aren't you?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Is everybody all right with their colours? I'm very worried about it. After lunch. Look at you. This is lovely. Getting very exciting. You like the colour? Good. Yeah. The greens with the turquoises and the pinks look lovely together. Try and keep it a little bit wet so the paint moves. I can see you painting a wall with it. You're going to need more water. Yeah, if that's okay. So when it's its wettest is the distance. Not always easy, is it, to see where you've wet it until you get it into the light. I'm sitting here being able to see where you've wet yours and where you've got holes, but it's not as easy for you. And what's actually fun and what's happening is you've all got the same colours, but you're ending up with different paintings already, different colours in the back. Very nice. Oh, you've gone for the peachy background. Yes. You liked it. That's good.
Yes, I do.
Good. Good. This is what I like to see. Putting your own stamp on it. I'm not watching you. It's all right. I'm not standing here watching you. Okay. You've got quite a lot of white, dry bits up here. Yeah. Very, very dry around here. That's it. Slop it on. Yes, you could. It's just lady just said if you accidentally wet inside the flower, you could just dab it off with a tissue. I mean, it doesn't particularly matter. The whole point is where you put the water is where the paint will go, except because we've used the masking, it will act as a barrier. So you should be fine. And the world wouldn't end if you had some colour in there. It would become a shadow, wouldn't it? Yes, we have a very warm day today, which is why it's drying so quickly. But it's good because it means you will spray it, hopefully, and you'll do some tipping and get the paints to move around. I don't want to see you painting a wall. Drop the colour in and let the water have its say with the paints. You need some more blue. If anybody needs more paints, I notice that the cobalt blue is disappearing quite quickly. Just please.
Thank you. That's great.
Does anybody else need more cobalt blue at this time? Yes? Okay. Okay. That's all right. Anybody else more cobalt blue? We have got some beautiful colours coming here. Absolutely lovely. Don't forget to tuck right up to your white flowers with colour. It doesn't matter about leaving it white elsewhere, but you won't get that sharp edge otherwise. Lovely. Okay. Keep it wet and flowing, please. That's it. Okay? You're getting to the point where it's beginning to dry.
Yeah, I know.
And if you put water in with the brush, you're going to end up with some marks, some water marks. So up to you. You can spray. I would give it a little bit spray, but be careful you don't just spray. You want to try and
Put the colour in.
yes, absolutely. But it is really beginning to dry there.
Yeah, very quick.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Everybody all right for colours? Can't stop the artist flowing here, can we? Yeah, I think you do. There we go. How are you doing? There we go. You're beginning to dry. I was getting to the point where you don't want to do too much more. Right. The thing is, you can always go back in when it's dry, but to just keep going. If you're not careful, you lose the sparkle. I like what you've done. Tempted to say it's almost time to stop.
Yeah, I know, I always do that.
Do you?
I always overdo a picture.
Okay, this lady's saying she always overdoes a picture, so I'm saying, right, put your paintbrush down, please. It's not the first time I've heard that.
No.
That's an interesting colour. Yes, my word, I think
You didn't get it in the handbag, though.
Is it the masking fluid?
Yes.
Did it spill? Or did you put it there on purpose?
Oh, okay.
You put it on there.
It just tipped.
It tipped. Okay, thank goodness it went in the palette. Yes, of course. Oopsie, sorry. We've got about 12 minutes till 12:30. Obviously, for people at home, they'll probably, I expect Gary will stop the filming. He'll be saying, I want my lunch. It's a good time for us to be stopping, actually. It was lovely. Really nice.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yes. And I've noticed you've done some things I didn't do, which is really fun too. I'm never a person to say you can't do that, I didn't do it. It's just not something I do. Okay, if I say what it is?
Yes, of course.
This lady has dabbed out some parts, so she's got some really interesting flower shapes. Normally I'm not a dabber, but she obviously knows how to dab, and the flower shapes are lovely. The screwed up tissues made some lovely shapes. It's when you do sort of round things that just suck all the paint up, it doesn't work, but that's worked. I know you like it. Try not to dab the whole lot, though, because it looks nice. Looks nice. That looks nice, too. Right. You're beginning to dry, and that's why we're seeing brush marks. Oh, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to suggest before you put any more paint on, that you give it a spray. Have you got a spray bottle? You need to give it a spray because it is the water that's going to stop this, and I can help you with the next colours. So if you don't mind respraying rather than water, and I can take you step by step with the colours. Not a problem. Is this your first watercolour? Exciting, then. We will do... Well, whatever it is, it's working. You might just spray it a little bit at the top. You're going to go into what I call the phyllo blue, which is this lovely turquoise colour. Yeah. If you've finished, please sit on your hands. Don't be tempted. It's so easy. You just want to help it because it can't carry on without you. What you might find after, when we get to the end, you might want to... I'm going to show you how we're going to start developing some middle tone flowers and buds if it hasn't happened in the first wash.
Is this a
Okay?
bit pale, really?
No, it's not pale. It's just you've got distance, but what's happened is not a lot of mid-ground. It's not wrong, which is great, because that's what we're going to work on this afternoon anyway. I like it, but don't dab anymore. Because what you've done is lovely. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Could I take your tissue away and then you won't be tempted? I'm taking them away. And then sit on your hands. You've done a lovely job.
Did you put any of this dark green on?
No, I was going to, but I didn't. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What you're going to have to do is I'm going to be tempted to take that away, because what's happening is it's deciding to dribble down. Whereas what you can do, you can say, right, I want you to go this way. Do you see what I mean? You're controlling the board rather than the board controlling you. It might not feel like it, but you're in control. I think you're getting close. The only thing is you want some colour next to the white. Yeah? Do you see what I mean? When you take the masking off, you'll lose that shape. So you need colour next to the white flower. Yes, and I did use some of the phyllo blue into the yellow, which actually made some interesting colours. That's lovely. If you finish, please don't be tempted to do any more, because... Is that nice? I'm happy with it. That's good. Good. You should be. Yeah, you should be. Time to stop. You've got plenty of paint on the paper, except I'm just seeing, look, you do need some paint in there. Yeah, if you can do that, because otherwise, they say your flowers aren't going to... They're not going to stand out. Okay, we'll be finishing for our lunch break in about 7 minutes. I say, please don't be tempted to fill that time in.
Leave me a little bit of direction, please.
Of course.
Now, look, I'm not, you know, I'm a beginner here, absolutely beginner.
Okay, well, stop painting, because you're painting and it's not connecting.
No.
Right,
that's
yes,
right.
go. What did you want to say?
Well, you know, is this okay?
It's absolutely fine.
Can I, you know, are they able to sort of blend in?
Oh,
something?
definitely.
Should
This
I
is almost abstract, what's happened in this first part. What I suggest you spray it, I would get some little bit of pink in, because you've got some sort of yellows and blues, but you need a little bit of a pink essence in there.
And just a bit of a dab round like you did
Just
for
a
the-
little bit,
yeah.
and then I suggest you stop. Yeah? And you're helping it because you think it can't manage without you, but actually it's managing beautifully. Time to stop. Love your colours. Bold, bold colours. No, it's lovely. This is beautiful. They're all different. They're all different. Fabulous. Good. I think stop. Personally, I would stop. I think it's lovely. Yes, of course. You like the which one is that? You want some more pink in? Go for it. But it's getting a bit dotty. Yes. So careful. Is it too wet? No, it's absolutely fine. You've got the whole of lunchtime for that to dry. No, it's gorgeous. It's granulated beautifully. It's exciting, isn't it? Right. No, it's fine. I'm just eyes scanning over everybody to make sure nobody picks their brushes up when they've finished. These are lovely, what you've done here. Just splodges is good. I would put a little bit of, if you wash your brush out though, I would put some of the cobalt down there and it'll start to mix with the green. If you tip it, it'll start making all sorts of interesting shapes. Yeah? Isn't that fun? Now, what's not going to show up is these, but I don't think we need to worry about it now. I think you're better off letting it dry. All right? We'll come back to that this afternoon. Yes, of course. Okay. We're going to actually break for lunch now. So we'll say goodbye to the people at home. And please do join us this afternoon. We'll be starting again at 2 o'clock. And we'll be working on our main flowers for the centres and also joining them, pulling the picture together, if you like, with some buds, some branches, few leaves. So if it looks as though they're floating at the moment, we'll be pulling it all together later on. So hopefully, please do join us at 2 o'clock and we'll finish our picture off.